Soldier Jaysley Beck killed herself due to constant harassment by her superiors in the military. The 19-year-old gunner soldier who ended her life because of overwhelming, relentless and incessant harassment from her line manager and immediate boss, Battery Sergeant Major Michael Webber, plus Bombardier Ryan Mason. Unfortunately, in a profession where female and male sexual harassment is still very prevalent and continuously ignored and brushed aside, is where our story takes us to today. The utter ignorance of the army or military in dealing with this young girl's constant pestering in a sexual nature by her bosses is unforgivable. At what point will they begin to take this stuff seriously? Inappropriate behaviour by male soldiers against females is said to be commonplace amongst a significant minority of soldiers, where women routinely receive vile and degrading comments whilst in social situations. In 2024, the number of personnel in UK Armed Forces by gender was approximately 121,900 men versus just 16,220 women. Now that's a big difference. 19-year-old Royal Artillery gunner Jaysley Beck decided to tragically take her own life back on December the 15th, 2021 at the Larkhill camp in Wiltshire, England, following an onslaught of sexual harassment from multiple males in a trusted line of authority in the army. One man she had already previously filed a complaint against, her sergeant, and of course it wasn't taken seriously, and the barrage of texts and calls continued from another male and began to ruin the soldier's life. Her mum complained she was constantly fed up and always down because of what one man was putting her through. She had recently left a long-term relationship and was solely focused on her career as a gunner in the army, of which she had joined at just 16 years of age, seen here pictured with her proud family. You can tell just how much of an honour being a part of such a profession was to Jaysley from seeing these photos of her. Extremely proud herself to be wearing her army attire. The army meant a lot to Jaysley. She wasn't at all interested in the attention she was unwarrantedly receiving from Sergeant Major Michael Webber and Bombardier Ryan Mason. Some people maybe. They may even see this as an opportunity to advance in their career. Who knows, maybe it's worked for them in the past. But that wasn't Jaysley and what she was all about. She had respect for herself and the military. During a stay at a place called Thorney Island near Hemsworth in Hampshire, England, back in July of 2021, gunner Jaysley Beck made a complaint against Sergeant Michael Webber after a night of drinking turned very sour for her. They were engaged in a drinking game called The Last Man Standing, where at some point after saying to Jaysley, "I've been waiting for a moment for us to be alone," he'd grabbed her leg and forced himself on her, proceeding to try and kiss the soldier multiple times. She pushed Michael away and fled the area before calling a friend, stating just how terrified she was that the then 39-year-old would come looking for her. That must have been so frightening. She had then locked herself in her car all night long to try and stay safe from the menace, and in the morning she didn't hesitate to complain to her superiors. Wow, so she had to isolate herself in her car all night, guys. That's how terrified she was of this man. And she did the exact right thing the very next morning and reported him. That didn't really go so well though, did it? But this is where it all went wrong, as you guessed it, basically fuck all was done. And because of this, Jaysley was in fear of speaking up about any harassment she received in the future. This led to her death. So what punishment did Sergeant Michael Webber receive for creating fear in this poor girl and forcing himself upon her? He received a minor administrative action, which just includes warnings, reprimands, or even extra duties. Wow, he'll definitely learn from that then, eh? Oh, and he also wrote an apology letter to Jaysley, which, as you can imagine, didn't go down well at all. In this letter, he even mentioned meeting up to talk about things further. Like, what the fuck? She's your victim. Go away. In this same letter, Sergeant Webber himself described his behaviour as absolutely unacceptable, even saying, "My door will always be open." Ew, how degrading. But this was no isolated incident, nor was he the only male in superior authority that had harassed Jaysley. She received thousands of messages from Bombardier Ryan Mason, who she described as being psychotic and possessive, and which also seemed to be a major factor in what led to her decision to end her life. Had she just had enough? As nothing was done previously, she felt completely stuck. Jaysley had also experienced a close family loss, so was most certainly in a very delicate and emotional state, not in need of being bombarded with messages from a male she had no interest in. Jaysley's father warned her to stay well away from the psychotic line manager, Bombardier Ryan Mason, as he would plague her with "I love you" messages. He urged his daughter to avoid Mason, as he was clearly very controlling. He would message her things like, "Are you with them?" pertaining to the male soldiers. They weren't even together, for fuck's sake. He'd written a 15-page love story about his feelings towards Jaysley. That is insanely creepy. A message Jaysley wrote to her sergeant, Bud, wrote, "I feel sick. I'm stressed out to death about the whole situation. I have come to do a job, but there's just too many feelings involved." Showing the clear strain all of the messages and persistence of this male was having on her and her mental state. She couldn't cope, and no one was helping her. She was reaching out, but nobody grabbed her hand. She even told Sergeant Bud that her father was concerned about Bombardier Ryan Mason. He suggested that she report him, but of course, following basically no action from when she had to literally retreat to her car for safety all night from that other superior male, she had no confidence in doing so. I believe she was trying by reaching out so much to Sergeant Bud, a plea for him to intervene. Oh, and Bud would be the one to find Jaysley dead in her accommodation later, after he thought something was very wrong as she'd not answered his messages all day. At the start of a 2-week inquest that is ongoing as I write this, Leanne McCready, Jaysley's mum, said that her daughter did not feel safe as the situation involving Ryan Mason developed. In just the month of November 2021, Ryan had bombarded the young soldier with 3,600 unwelcome messages. Wow. Leanne said her daughter had stated he was becoming a creep and obsessive, and also added how it was relentless. Poor girl. Leanne even said that one time she was on the phone to Jaysley, and she said, "Mum, I think he's hacked my phone, because he knows exactly where I am standing, and he's meant to be away." Oh my god, how terrifying is that? He's a major stalker. To know exactly where she is standing in that moment, and he's not even there in that location, so he's clearly not witnessing it himself. What the fuck? On November the 11th, Ryan sent Gunnar Beck a message which wrote, "You're amazing, Jace. I appreciate you so much. I love everything about you, even your flaws. I will always be there along for the ride with you. I have said it before, but you're stuck with me forever now. I love you. Kiss. As a friend, I love you. Exclamation mark. This one message alone is extremely intimidating. Hear those words from someone who is relentlessly harassing this female. I will always be there. She didn't fucking want you there, creep. I've said it before, but you're stuck with me forever now. He's telling her, I'm going nowhere, and I'll always be there, wherever you turn. This is extreme harassment and stalking. On the 25th of November, Jaysley wrote to Mason saying, "This whole falling in love with me, it's becoming a bit too much for me. It's weighing me down a little bit." Bless her, she's so scared of speaking up that even when she knew it was relentless and unwarranted sexual attention from a superior male, she would use words like, "a little bit," kind of downplaying it. She clearly didn't mean that. It was affecting her and her life entirely. Again, this just shows how fearful she was, being so polite and submissive, when really she just couldn't cope any longer. On the 7th of December, she rang her mum, upset and crying, saying she was afraid something would happen and that Ryan was freaking her out, but because of her previous complaint, which went absolutely nowhere, even resulting in the arrogance of that harasser saying his door was always open to his victim, she was worried about being seen as the female troublemaker. And it's like, if something's not done the first time, like why would you expect something to be done the next time? And again, the minority, you can then get shit from probably the other males in the army. It's a lot to take. In the inquest into the soldier's suicide, a draft text message would be found, which Jaysley wrote, but never found the confidence to send. It said, "I honestly feel trapped in this whole situation. It's possessive and psychotic. You have to understand, it's not normal behaviour! Exclamation mark. And I am struggling to deal with all of this. It's taking a huge toll on my own mental health for many personal reasons. I need time out! Exclamation mark. This is how she really felt, but heartbreakingly, she felt the better way out was to, instead of sending this message, end her own life. Just tragic. What does that say about the military and how they deal with such harassment? Seriously. Bombardier John Wheeler, who was a friend of Jaysley's, told the inquest that inappropriate relationships between different ranking soldiers was rife, and he had lost faith in the chain of command, and that's coming from a male. He commented on the creepy love story which Ryan Mason wrote, where he even chose aliases for both himself and Jaysley, as believing it would result in sexual harassment. John Wheeler said that the young gunner was previously such a bubbly person, but she had become more and more down in the weeks before her death. Leanne said that the attention she was receiving from Ryan was impacting her mood swings, and that she was concerned about just what he was capable of doing. Her mum said she was left feeling angry, of course, but fearful herself about even commenting on her own daughter's death, thinking who may be listening, feeling it was her and her family against the military, and that shouldn't be the case. Described by her mum as a proud soldier with an adventurous spirit, who lit up every room she walked into. Said to be the heart of the family, her death has left a void that can never be filled. Major Lupton told the inquest that Gunner Jaysley Beck was the epitome of who you would want in the army. That is so sad, such a loss. And she didn't lose her life fighting for her country. No, she took it herself because of the constant intimidation in a sexual manner from higher authorities in her own regiment. Disgusting, despicable, and shameful. The army should be ashamed of how blasé that first report was dealt with, leaving her with no confidence to complain about harassment she faced later on. Oh, and the first puzzle piece in this utter persecution against Gunner Beck, Battery Sergeant Michael Webber, the one who started all of Jaysley's troubles, was horrifically promoted to a W01 rank in May of 2022. Yes, following her suicide, which was also clearly linked to him and his perverse behaviour against the young female soldier. W01 is a Warrant Officer Class 1, which is a senior non-commissioned rank, with specialist roles in both the technical and non-combatant services in the combat and combat support arms. Sorry, I'm struggling to read that bit. Sorry, that was hard to read. Who are also responsible for the discipline within the unit and in war, for its ammunition resupply and prisoner handling. Yes, the same man who was incorrectly punished for scaring a soldier into hiding in her car all night from him. But apparently he intends to leave the army this year. Yeah, with all of your army benefits and stuff, I'm sure. Even though, in my opinion, how he acted towards Jaysley played a huge part in her later tragic decision to take her own life. It's just so wrong. What do you guys think? Should he have been punished further? Should he have been promoted? Did he play a part in her death? And, of course, I think you'll probably agree that Bombardier Ryan Mason certainly did. At the inquest, Sergeant Webber refused to answer or acknowledge any of the questions before him, only to comment on the apology letter he wrote to Jaysley, protesting it to have been genuine. As I said, the inquest is still ongoing at this time, therefore more evidence may be released in the near future. It finishes around the 20th of Feb, I believe. 20th to the 21st, but you never know how long these things are going to go on. After the barrage of 3,000 plus text, calls and voice notes, along with that creepy 15-page love story she had received from Ryan, the army gunner sadly decided to take her own life only days before Christmas of 2021. She would be found in her room hanged around 4 p.m. on the 15th of December by the very person she had attempted to reach out to for help. Jaysley ended her life at the Larkhill military barracks in Dorrington, Wiltshire, England. A beautiful female inside and out, with many aspirations in her life and within the army, so much to give to the world, wanting and more than happy to fight for her country, a huge, huge loss to the world, and felt throughout the UK by many of us who never even knew her. Especially by other women who have also been through similar experiences within a job role, and specifically in the military. If you have suffered or are currently going through similar experiences, please call these helplines. You are not alone. Although such a tragic loss to both her family, the country and the world as a whole, I hope that at least what happened to Jaysley Beck that day in December of 2021, after everything she was facing, all the pressure from the male seniors, constant sexual harassment leading to her suicide, may finally open up some minds and make justice of these beasts who fully abuse their power take actual course. And that these men learn they are not in a place of controlling someone's life like that. They cannot control someone's life that way. These men need to be stopped. My thoughts are with Jaysley Beck's loved ones. What do you think? Do you believe these males should be held accountable for the parts they played in this story and in Jaysley's decision to end everything? Comment below and subscribe and like for more. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate all of you. Just such a sad story, but this really is something that needs to be spoken up about more. And I know for a fact that in the military, this is a serious issue that has been going on forever and is getting no better. We need to put a stop to this. Thank you all for being here. Random Jen.